Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to talk about slugging today. I've been getting a lot of requests to walk through what is slugging, what are the benefits, what are the risks, and to walk through all of my different balms. So I'm really excited to talk through all of that today. And if you're new here, my name is Devin. I'm an esthetician and a beauty content creator, and I would love it if you would hit subscribe if you like the video and give it a thumbs up, and let's jump right into the video. First off, what is slugging? And slugging has actually been around for basically forever. It's just a couple of years ago that it got this sort of like funny nickname and became, a trending practice, and tons of YouTube videos were created around it. So I'm basically sharing my version of that. The idea behind slugging and the reason people do it is because it prevents transepidermal water loss, and it can prevent up to 99% of transepidermal water loss, or what we also call TOOL, and that is extremely beneficial for healing our skin's barrier. So it's extremely beneficial for those, especially with dry skin or barrier issues. If you're in a harsh, cold climate, dry climate, it can be very beneficial for just speeding up the healing of your skin's barrier. Let's talk about humectants, emollients, and occlusives. So when I talk a lot about occlusives on Instagram, a lot of people are saying, well, I thought oils were occlusive, or this was occlusive, or can your skin breathe if you're wearing an occlusive? And nothing is really 100% occlusive. So it's sort of like a percentage or a scale, if you will. So you have your humectants, right? They draw water to the skin either externally or through deeper layers. Those are like glycerin, hyaluronic acid, sodium hyaluronate. There's a bunch of different humectants and things that help hydrate our skin and hold water to the skin, right? So then we have our emollients, and there are a lot of ingredients that double as an emollient but also have some occlusiveness. Emollients help to soften and moisturize the skin. And then you have occlusives. They create this barrier that seals everything in and prevents water loss, transepidermal water loss. So basically seals in all of that hydration. And like I said, a lot of emollients also have some occlusiveness but are not, 100% occlusive. So when we think about slugging, typically it's done with a ointment type product, a petrolatum based product. So very popular are Vaseline, the CeraVe healing ointment, and then Aquaphor. So I'm going to talk about those and a couple of other options as well. The biggest difference between a lot of these ointments and like a traditional moisturizer, which a moisturizer is going to have humectants, emollients, and occlusives. The biggest difference is really just the amount of occlusiveness. So ointments and balms just have more occlusive properties than they do humectants and emollients. The biggest reason that people decide to slug is to repair their barrier at a rapid speed. So sometimes our barrier gets impaired because we're overdoing it with retinoids or chemical exfoliants, and other times we're just naturally dry or dehydrated. We might be in a really harsh cold climate where we're also inside, where there's a lot of dry heat. So that dryness, whether that's outside, inside, whether it comes from hot or cold, there's so many different things that can just dry out our skin and basically break down the barrier. And the skin barrier breaks down. I like to explain the skin barrier like a brick and mortar house. So you have your skin cells, and the barrier is really like that lipid complex that is the mortar that kind of holds all your skin cells together. I find that visual really helpful for our clients. And so what happens when that mortar kind of breaks down, bacteria gets in there, you get more breakouts. That's why a lot of times people see breakouts, they exfoliate more, they destroy their barrier more, and then, it just kind of like continues the cycle of irritation and acne. And so basically when that barrier is impaired, your skin has a harder time retaining moisture, that water. So slugging is really helpful because, again, it's sealing in all of that hydration on the skin so your barrier can strengthen and heal. If you have eczema, rosacea, acne, any inflammatory skin condition, having a strong and fortified skin barrier is extremely important. Biggest risk with slugging is if you use an active underneath a occlusive balm. that active can become up to 1,000 times more potent. So I actually just saw this with a friend who applied azelaic acid. She has very dry and sensitive skin. She forgot she applied the acid. She applied a balm on top, and that made the azelaic acid very strong. And she woke up with little red itchy bumps all over her face. Her skin felt really tight and dry. It can be a huge risk if you use a retinoid underneath or salicylic acid, kind of any active ingredient, and then you occlude it, because it has no ability to evaporate off the skin. And all of our skincare ingredients do evaporate off the skin in, like small amounts, but basically when it's occluded on the skin, it's going to work a lot more effectively. So that can be a good and a bad thing. So the other thing that can happen, and is the risk with slugging, is just irritation. Maybe you're allergic to one of the ingredients, and I'll talk about which balms I think, have the higher ability to cause irritation. But it's very, very possible for you to just be irritated by something in that, and you could think that, I'm having a breakout, or I'm, getting irritation from that balm. But just note that all balms are different, and one irritates you, you could be completely fine with another one. So you just need to then take a step back, repair your barrier, and then maybe try again, even though that can be really scary as well. But hopefully with my tips, this will help kind of prevent any irritation. It's also a risk if you have acne that is not well managed. I would probably steer clear of this. I am extremely acne prone, and I don't have issues slugging, but I'm able to use a retinoid nightly. I'm still chemical exfoliating. You have to make sure that you're really washing your face and doing a double cleanse thoroughly. It's really important, because basically if you don't, you're going to kind of occlude all of that in your pores, which can cause breakouts. So you have to be very careful if you're acne prone. When I started trying to slug, because I moved back to New England from Texas, dealing with so much dryness, feeling dry in the morning, because I also use Tazarac every night. So even though genetically I'm very oily, using Tazarac almost every night, has lowered my oil production significantly, to the point where my skin actually feels quite dry, but I'm still very acne prone. So I started slugging, and I had really great results with healing my barrier and my skin not feeling so tight and dry. But I was very careful, slowly added in. I started around the perimeter of my face and slowly moved inward. I actually tended to avoid this area, which is where I'm most prone to congestion and breakouts. But I've had really, really great results. So I do think it is possible for those with acne prone skin. You just need to keep in mind all of the things I just talked about. The other thing that can be really helpful is what we call the reverse slug, which is where you actually take an ointment and you apply it around your eyes or your nose or around your mouth or anywhere that you're sensitive, and then you apply an active, and then you go in with another moisturizer. That actually helps protect those areas from inactive, kind of getting in there. It's really helpful, especially if you, get irritation around your nose or in your eyes. I get really irritated in my eyes if I bring retinoid within my orbital bone. So it's really helpful for me to do the reverse slug underneath the eye, just to make sure I don't have any of that retinoid seeping up and actually drying out the glands in my eyes, which has definitely happened to me before. Next, let's talk about the 3 ointments that are the most well known, and I will kind of run you through them, which one I prefer and think is the best option of the 3. First up, we have Vaseline. I have a CVS version, but it's the same ingredients. It's 100% white petrolatum. Vaseline is the most occlusive of all of the ointments because it's 100% petrolatum. But there are very few known allergies to this. I, talked to a bunch of dermatologists, and they have said that they've pretty much never seen an allergic reaction to petrolatum. So the benefit of using this is that, there's a very good chance you won't have an allergic reaction to this. However, it is very occlusive, at that 100%. So this is the most occlusive product on the market, and so use at your own risk. I've actually seen some people, and I'm not advising to go do this, on TikTok say that if you apply salicylic acid where you get blackheads, on your nose, and then you apply Vaseline, that's how you get rid of them, because again, when you're occluding the salicylic acid on your nose, you're making the salicylic acid 1,000 times more potent, and it's going to be very effective, but you could really, really risk some major irritation. And, you know, if you really overdo it with chemical exfoliants like that, you could even, you know, permanently damage your skin. So you really have to use this with a lot of caution. Next up is my favorite, which is the CeraVe Healing Ointment. They also have the baby version, but I think the ingredients are identical. So this has 46.5% petrolatum. It has mineral oil, dimethicone. It also has 3 ceramides, vitamin E, which is a nice antioxidant. It has hyaluronic acid and panthenol, which is going to soothe the skin. So this has a variety of ingredients that are going to help not only just occlude whatever you had on your skin, but it's also going to hydrate your skin. And ceramides are really important because they make up kind of that lipid complex that makes up your skin barrier. So this is going to be hydrating but also quite occlusive. So this is a really nice option. I do feel like all of these options are very sticky. You know, all of these occlusive ointments, that's my biggest complaint, is they're, you know, they feel very, very sticky. So keep that in mind. I think the texture of all three is, you know, very, very similar. So yeah, I think this one is my favorite, and I'll share why when we talk about Aquaphor. I have Aquaphor here, and this is 41% petrolatum. It has mineral oil, lanolin, glycerin to hydrate, panthenol and bisabolol are going to soothe the skin. This is the most moisturizing, but because it has that added lanolin, I've seen a lot of my friends have major irritation with this. There's a decent amount of lanolin allergies, and maybe you didn't know it unless you've tried a lip balm that had lanolin in it, and then you're like, okay, I know that this is not for me. So this one, I would say, you know, I feel like these are so similar, and I feel like this one's like barely moisturizing more than the CeraVe. So I would say go with the CeraVe and just like not risk that irritation. And sometimes it's not even the lanolin, it's like the lanolin mixed with something else, again, because it's lanolin and it's like being occluded on your skin. You might not have, you know, a really strong allergic reaction to lanolin, but once it's kind of occluded on your skin, it might be a little bit different. So definitely go with the CeraVe in my opinion, but try them out. I've seen people like have not great luck with this and then have amazing luck with this, which is why I recommend the CeraVe. I do have 3 other balms that I really love to use more than ointments because, like I said, my skin is oily, acne prone. Even though my skin is very dry right now, these feel far too heavy on my skin, but I love them for my feet, and especially like my legs in the winter when I get out of the shower. I stick to using these on my feet. I use them also on my son who has eczema. So yeah, these are fantastic. I just prefer not to use them on my face. So I'm going to talk about my 3 favorite balms that I love using on my face every night. First up, I want to talk about the Slug Balm by Futurewise. This is a brand that is just launched at Target. They're actually created by the founders of Starface, which is also at Target. They sent me the line. They have a slug system, which I talked about in my last video. It's a mist, a cream, which I love all 3, and then the Slug Balm. So this doesn't have a lot of ingredients. It's mostly hydrogenated vegetable oil. A lot of brands, you know, want to be petrolatum free, so that's their kind of like main base of it. It also has bisabolol, which again is going to soothe the skin. It has part of ceramide too, so like part of a ceramide, and stearic acid, which is a fatty acid that again makes up our skin barrier. This feels a little bit oily on the skin, but a little goes a long way. The thing that I really like about this is the texture, and I'll compare the textures for you, but this feels very light. I feel like when I'm applying an ointment like this, I cannot get it off of my hands under the sink, but I feel like with soap and water I can actually remove this. I still feel this on my face in the morning, which is what we want. My skin feels amazing the next morning, but because this is mostly hydrogenated vegetable oil, it has some occlusiveness, but it's not nearly as occlusive as these other ointments, but it's very emollient heavy, which I really love because this softens and moisturizes the skin like nothing else. So I really, really love this. This one is $25 at Target, but if you wanted to get the trio, it's cheaper. I think it's like 66 bucks for all 3 on the Futurewise site. So anyways, I really, really enjoy this, and I think just texture wise it's the most similar to an ointment of the 3 balms that I'm going to talk about, but I just find it is less sticky and ointmenty, but I would still give it some time before you go to bed and get it on your pillowcase. The next balm that I have is an oil-based balm, and this is the Blue Cocoon by May Lindstrom. This is one of my most repurchased products. I love this. It's really beautiful. You apply this to damp skin. So I actually love to keep, I have a mini of this in my shower. That's kind of what I've been using because my skin gets so dry in the shower. So I really love to just take a little bit. It warms up and kind of turns into an oil in your hand, and then you apply it to the skin. So definitely mix with a mist or water, melt it down with the warmth of your, skin, and then you can kind of press it into the skin. This is really, really beautiful. And this is, again, the kind of balm, an oil-based balm that I recommend using in the shower. I also have the Infisa balm, which I really love. That one is also in my shower. So the main occlusive in this is shea butter, but it does have a bunch of other plant oils. Oils are confusing because a lot of plant oils aren't actually occlusive. So when people apply a facial oil at the end of their routine, they're thinking like, oh, this is sealing everything in, but most oils aren't actually that occlusive. They're quite emollient and maybe have a little bit of occlusivity. So the thing that you want to think about with plant oils is that those that have high amounts of oleic acid are going to be more occlusive. Those are the types of oils that are used usually in body oils and heavier oils that kind of you can feel sit on the skin, and you can see water kind of bounce off and reflect off of your skin. So those are the types of oils that I like to apply on my body, but on my face, most balms don't really have highly occlusive oils in them. This mostly has plant oils that aren't super occlusive. Yeah, there might be a little bits of occlusivity in each of them, but they're not, like in the 50 to 100% range occlusive. So shea butter is the main thing in here, but this will really help to soften the skin and keep things moisturized, but there's not a ton in this that's super occlusive. It really kind of depends on the time of year whether or not I still wake up and feel like I can still feel this on my skin. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. It's, like if it's really dry, it's kind of already like evaporated off the skin. So it really kind of depends. But I would say like in the dead of winter, I much prefer like this ointment style over this, even though I find this really beneficial for keeping my skin soft and moisturized and, not super dry and uncomfortable when I get out of the shower, especially if you love hot showers. Highly recommend. You don't even have to spend on, the May Lindstrom Blue Cocoon. There are other oil-based balms, and I'll list some in the caption that I have tried and really enjoyed as well that maybe aren't at, this price point. This balm is one of my favorites if you have more normal to oily skin because it has a really soft matte finish. If you go to bed and you don't want to feel like you're oily or looking like a greasy chicken, this is the one that you want to reach for. So this has a really beautiful, soothing and calming blend of marshmallow root, Centella asiatica, which is also known as Kika, and colloidal oatmeal, arnica, milk thistle. So again, lots of calming and soothing ingredients. The main occlusives in this balm are shea butter and squalane. And so this has quite a bit of humectants. It has lots of plant oils, so it also has lots of emollients. So if you look at this, it actually has all of the features of an actual moisturizer, but I don't find this to be super hydrating. I really find this to just be kind of like my last step that seals everything in. I don't get a lot of hydration from this. So you'll want to, make sure that you're applying these on damp skin, or you're using a mist or, lightweight kind of lotion underneath, because you want something to trap into the skin. You really want to trap in that water. So that's kind of the big key with all of these, but especially with this balm. Trap it in and wake up the next day to the best skin ever. I hope this really breaks it down. There are so many fantastic balms out there. I don't own that many because you need so little, and as someone with more acne prone skin, there's something that I only really reach for in the winter, so like 3 to 4 months out of the year. Depending on where you live and what your skin type is, this could be something you do all year. I have friends with dry skin who do this most of the year. They live in a more dry climate, so it just really kind of depends on your skin. I highly recommend just playing around with it and seeing what works best for you and your skin, and pay attention to how your skin feels in the morning. That's the biggest piece of advice I can give. I hope this video was helpful for you, and if it was, it would mean so much to me if you would give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.